Another night of UFC fights have ended, and it's time for me to recap. No, this show is not sponsored by Gears of War 4. What is up, guys? Chase Oliver here, bringing you my UFC 204 recap and results. Live from Manchester, England was UFC 204. The main headliner of this card was Michael Bisping, defending his middleweight championship against Dan Henderson, who is looking to make this his final fight of his career. Overall, UFC 204, I'll say this about the show. I actually enjoyed it. I actually thought that this show just went by fast. It went by quick. Most of the fights were interesting enough to keep my attention. I thought UFC 204 was a fine card, and definitely a card when it comes on Fight Pass like the next month or so. You definitely should check it out. But anyways, it's time to talk about the main card, and I'll talk about the fights as much as I can. Keep in mind, like I've said in past UFC preview recaps and everything like that, when it comes to some of the undercard guys, especially on these cards that are not completely stacked, I don't know much about them. I'm a huge MMA fan when it comes to the technique and everything like that, but when it comes to names nowadays, there's way too many fighters. There's way too many fighters for me to remember. But we had Mirzad Bektik taking on Russell Doane, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of these names. Y'all just got to deal with it. But Mirzad Bektik taking on Russell Doane in the featherweight division. I believe Russell Doane was a was a fill-in. I believe so. Like, he was supposed to fight at another show. He's normally a bantamweight, I know that, but I believe he was a fill-in for this show, and he was taking on Mirzad Bektik, who is a pretty nice little prospect for the featherweight division. And this whole fight was pretty much Bektik just controlling Doane. Doane had nothing against Bektik whatsoever. Bektik hit some nice shots early on, managed to take him down, looked like he was going to finish it with a choke early on. No, Doane kind of survived a little bit. Second round happened. Bektik took Doane down again, got the rear naked choke, and Bektik gets the win. Good for him. Who should he fight in that featherweight division? I mean, the featherweight division, if you look at the names in the featherweight division, that's like a murderer's row. That's like a really top-end, top-notch division that the UFC has. I mean, they just have to have their champion actually do shit in the division, but man, that's a top division right there. And, you know, Bektik, I think he's going to be looking for a higher-end fight, maybe a guy that's ranked number 7, ranked number 6. I got to check the featherweight rankings again. I haven't checked them in a while. You know, really, to be honest, the featherweight division is kind of at a standstill since Conor McGregor's not defending his title anytime soon. Up next in this card, the heavyweight battle between Stefan Skyscraper Truth. Got to have one Dutchman win something in the UFC since Alistair lost last UFC. Taking on Daniel. Okay, I'm going to be fronting with you guys. I'm not even going to say this guy's name. I know he's Hawaiian, but I ain't even going to say this guy's name. I ain't going to front with y'all. His name is already hard enough for me to say. It's like Daniel Omialanzuk. Omialanzuk? I guess I'm close on this. All you got to know about this fight was that Stefan Struve, I don't know what this guy's problem is. He won. I know everyone's going to be like, Chase, he won, though. It should be good. This guy still fights with his head just leading out there. And you just picture him just getting knocked out. Like, he can beat the Daniel Omorazuks of the world. But he was all asking for a top 5 fight after this. And Struve, he did what he did against Bigfoot. You know, he was going for his right jab. That helped him well against Bigfoot Silva. But that Bigfoot Silva fight was really quick and really fast. We didn't really get to see it, all of it, you know, of what Stefan Struve can do. I mean, we all know Stefan Struve is a very solid wrestler. And he proved that against Daniel. He proved that against Daniel tonight. He's a decent submission fighter. But really, to be honest here, against a top 5 guy, I don't know how Stefan Struve does against a top 5 guy. Against the top 5 in the heavyweight division, who seem like they're always going to go for the heavyweight title no matter what, I see Stefan Struve loses a lot of those fights. He just didn't look all that great against me. That's, to me, at least Stefan Struve, he did not look great against this Daniel guy to me. He won the fight, but he didn't look great. That's all I really got to say. So Stefan Struve ends up winning submission Darce choke in the second round. Jim Manaua taking on Ovent St. Preux, or OSP. You know, I was looking forward to this fight. This is actually a very, very sleeper light heavyweight contest right here. I was all like, oh, man, we got OSP versus Manaua. Someone's getting knocked out because OSP, he has sneaky knockout power. Like, people don't realize that. OSP with that left hand, oh, dude, he's sneaky knockout good. And Jimmy Manaua, oh, that guy likes to put on entertaining fights. Manaua, he hasn't been in too many bad fights, so I was looking forward to this. Now, St. Preux, on the other hand, he's no Manaua. He doesn't go out there to do it. He has his basic game plan. So pretty much the first round, Ovince St. Preux and Jimmy Manuwa were just kind of feeling each other out. Nothing really too special there. Manuwa gets a takedown. Not Manuwa. St. Preux gets his takedown because, trains with GSP, wrestles like GSP, does GSP-like things. And Manuwa was doing a good job surviving. I thought OSP was going for another submission. I said, shit, we're going to have 3 submissions tonight. But that wasn't the case. Manuwa survives round 1. And then round 2, I don't know what was going on. Ovince St. Preux just looked tired. Like, he just did not look like he was ready to be in a long fight tonight. He was just like breathing really, really heavy. He just wasn't doing a good job at that. And Ovince St. Preux got hit with a nice kick by Jimmy Manuwa, and that just froze him up. It was just like his brain was just like, yeah, man, I'm going to go to sleep soon, so don't worry about it. And the whole time, Manuwa was just like stalking Ovince St. Preux, bam, bam. And Ovince St. Preux was just taking these shots, and his coaches were like, take down. And Ovince St. Preux was like, dogs, I'm going to sleep soon, so don't even try yelling at me. And then Manuwa goes for a crazy kick. Then afterwards, hits him with the right hand, and Ovince St. Preux does a stanky leg, knocked out Jimmy Manuwa with a huge win, and good for Jimmy Manuwa. He's an entertaining fighter. I like Jimmy Manuwa, so good for him. Anyways, moving on forward with this event. What was next? Oh, yeah, the co-main event. Gegard Mousasi taking on Vitor Belfort. Dan Henderson wasn't the only legend looking to retire tonight, as Vitor, the Phenom, was looking to retire as well. And you wanted to have a fight with Gegard Mousasi. Mousasi, very, very good fighter, just found a place in the UFC. I mean, outside of the UFC, if you guys remember back in like 08, 09 and stuff like that, Gegard Mousasi, he was considered a killer. Like, everyone's like, dude, no one's going to beat Gegard and everything like that. But then Gegard got into the UFC, and then he kind of like was struggling in that 205 division. And then later on in the 185 division, he kind of just didn't really like, he's been winning fights, but at the same time, he doesn't win like the big ones. And so this was really one of his biggest fights in the UFC when you look at it. I mean, he's beating a lot of big names outside of the UFC, but when it came down to just being inside the UFC, this was his biggest fight and that he needed to win. And Gegard managed to outstrike Vitor. Vitor showed one little last splash of Vitor greatness where he goes crazy with his punches, but ultimately Gegard was dominating this whole fight. We get to the second round. Vitor nowadays, when you get him on his back, it's all over from there, and it was another depressing loss for the Phenom Vitor Belfort. Gegard Mousasi gets a huge win, and it was kind of sad to see this when it came to Vitor Belfort, because I remember back when I first started watching UFC and stuff like that, Vitor was the man, dude. Vitor was legit, dude. Like, if y'all started watching UFC back when they did the tournaments and everything like that, and this is why it always pisses me off that Vitor doesn't get credit for being a 2-division champion. Because Vitor won the heavyweight tournament, and he also won the light heavyweight title from Randy Couture at like UFC 38 and everything like that. It always pisses me off that Vitor never got that credit that like BJ Penn and that who else is a 2-division champ? I'm always wrong. And Randy Couture always got, being 2-division champs. I always felt Vitor should have got that credit because Vitor Belfort, you guys don't understand, man. When MMA was first starting out into the mainstream, Vitor Belfort was one of those guys that everyone watched and talked about, like, dude, you got to see this guy. This guy's insane. He just comes running in and he freaking fires his fists like crazy. Like, Vitor was insane for his time. I mean, does Vitor's fighting style work in nowadays MMA? No, because MMA has evolved. There's many fighters that know how to avoid those type of strikes from Vitor Belfort. There's a lot more wrestlers in the MMA world nowadays. Vitor Belfort's type of style, it works if you can get it done like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't work. And, Vitor, he had his opportunities. He went outside the UFC a bit. That kind of like stalwarted his career. But when he came back, he had his opportunities at Gold. I mean, against Anderson Silva, we all know what happened there. He became the poster of one of the best knockouts ever in the UFC. And then against John Jones, we all saw he almost beat John Jones. People tend to forget about that, but John Jones almost broke his arm against Vitor Belfort. Vitor Belfort almost walked out as the light heavyweight champion again and to become a two-time light heavyweight champ. And then obviously TRT, that kind of hurts Vitor's legacy a bit, is the whole TRT Vitor, but you can't deny when Vitor was on TRT, he looked unstoppable. He actually looked like a beast, and it was fun watching Vitor Belfort fight. So, it's sad that his career is ending like this. It just like on a defeat like this. Like, if it was like when we get to Hendo, we'll talk about Hendo in a minute. If it was like how his career ended like Henderson's career, I'd be happy. But the thing is, it ended so sadly. It was just like you just saw the shell of this guy that you used to grow up and watch. And like I said, if you started watching UFC in the beginning, you know who Vitor Belfort is. Vitor's been fighting in the UFC since he was 20 years old. Like, you know that this guy has so much lineage and history in the UFC, and just seeing him lose like that, it was really sad. It was really sad. So I'm gonna miss the Phenom, not like 100% a lot, but I am gonna miss the Phenom, and I'm always gonna remember the good times of Vitor. And Vitor was just steamrolling through people, and he was like, can't miss, dude. Like, seriously, like people would be like, you can't miss Vitor Belfort. This guy's insane. And the sad thing is, Vitor Belfort, all his losses are really depressing too. When you look at Vitor Belfort and all his losses, like they're all depressing. So Vitor Belfort, is he a legend? In some respects, yes, he's a legend in MMA. UFC Hall of Famer for sure. But his career is kind of tainted with the whole TRT scandal and everything like that. So, but afterwards, Gegard Mousasi, he realized that Yoel Romero and Chris Weidman are fighting, and Jacare and Luke Rockhold are fighting. So he can't really get a top 5 guy just yet. So he said, fuck it. Give me Anderson Silva. Gegard Mousasi's going on that Legends tour. He's like, screw this. I'll just go fight Anderson Silva. He asked to have the fight in December. Fuck it, Anderson. Anderson is just at this point in his career, and I don't care what anyone says about Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva is the greatest of all time. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He can do literally whatever he wants, and Anderson Silva, I'll still watch his fights. I mean, like Gegard, no, not like Gegard, like Vitor, Anderson's career has kind of taken a dip because of the whole, he got caught with steroids against Nick Diaz type of thing, so everyone thought Silva was on steroids during his title run and everything like that, which I don't think he was, which in my personal opinion, I think he just got popped once, and that was that. But when it came down to it with Anderson and everything like that, after saving UFC 200 from being a disaster of a show, I have gained a lot of respect for the Spider. Always respect the Spider. Love the Spider. So if Gegard wants to go fight the Spider, go right ahead. Let's just hope Anderson gets in the win column. I wouldn't mind that. I would actually be very excited to see that. I mean, if Anderson Silva can fight on like 1 day notice against possibly one of the best fighters in the world today, and Daniel Cormier, I don't see why he can't go on and get ready to fight off against Gegard Mousasi. Yeah, so. Well, Danny McHale, we're getting to Michael Bisping versus Dan Henderson coming up next. Michael Bisping defended his middleweight championship for the first time against Dan Henderson. Now, this fight came with some controversy. Not even talking about the end of the fight, even before the fight, because Michael Bisping just won the middleweight title, beat Luke Rockhold and everything like that. And you're thinking, all right, Jacare, he's going to get his title shot next. Well, Jacare was still kind of suspended for something against Vitor. Like, he didn't take any drugs or anything like that. It's just a medical suspension. So I guess Jacare couldn't fit the time frame to face Michael Bisping, which I was like kind of confused about. And then later on, they're like, oh, Chris Weidman, he's going to face Michael Bisping. Makes sense. No, Weidman still was recovering from neck surgery, so there's no way he was going to fight Michael Bisping, right? What about Yoel Romero? No, Yoel Romero, although very talented, was still serving that suspension. And so Michael Bisping got to call his own shots. The UFC were like, fuck it. This card is before 205 anyways, and we got to make money somehow before 205. Michael Bisping and Dan Henderson. Now, here's the thing. Dan Henderson is not even ranked top 10 in the middleweight division currently in the UFC. Let's keep it 100 here. That is just ridiculous. So they pretty much just said, hey, we got to have a money fight for this card. We got to have a fight that people will be entertained by. And so let's do Michael Bisping and Dan Henderson. Because remember UFC 100? Dan Henderson and Michael Bisping. And Dan Henderson hit the H-bomb on Bisping in round number 2. And Michael Bisping was dead on the ground. And Dan Henderson went down and kept on raining shots on him. And then afterwards, that was like the most humiliating lot. Like, there are people to this day that even when they watch like UFC or anything like that, or watch Michael Bisping parties or anything like that, there are people to this day that barely watch UFC and will say, isn't that a guy got knocked out by Dan Henderson? Like, everyone knows that highlight of Michael Bisping getting knocked out by Dan Henderson. So this was like, oh man, Michael Bisping's going for his redemption. So Bisping versus Hendo 2 for the middleweight title. Cash grab fight, money grab fight, whatever you want to call it fight. Michael Bisping was favored to win this one, but you couldn't count out old man Hendo. Hendo has still the H-bomb and the power in his right hand. The beginning portion of this fight, round number 1, very close, very even, but Dan Henderson was definitely winning the exchanges in this one. And you could tell because earlier in the fight, before Dan Hendo unloaded the first H-bomb, Michael Bisping was cut up. He was cut up right here. He was bleeding. It was weird. It was disgusting. I was like, oh my God, Bisping's gonna. I thought Bisping was dead already. Bisping goes for a straight left. Hendo dodges that, and then boom, H-bomb. I was like, oh my God. And then Dan Henderson just unloads. Bam, 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 bam. Hammer fist after hammer fist. Bisping was getting fucked up. I thought the ref was going to stop it prematurely, but nope, that wasn't the case. Michael Bisping ended up getting up. Michael Bisping goes for like a flying knee for whatever freaking reason, and that was the end of round 1. Round 1 goes to Dan Henderson. Round number 2, old man Hendo's tired. You could tell. Old man Hendo's like, he was gassed, old man Hendo was. Old man Hendo could not handle after like gassing himself out in the first round. Michael Bisping, that second round, oh my God, he looked phenomenal in that second round. Bisping was landing body kicks, combinations. It looked like Dan Henderson shouldn't even be in there. You're just like, oh, man, Dan Henderson's getting his ass knocked out this round. It's over. It's over. Bisping then hits like a controversial groin kick, which Dan Henderson, I don't know, that woke him up or something, because Dan Henderson afterwards goes shuffle, shuffle, H-bomb again and knocked out. Like almost knocked out Bisping again, goes on top of Bisping. Bisping gets back up. And no, Bisping doesn't get back up. Dan Henderson just literally lays on top of Michael Bisping because he's tired as fuck. He's like, man, I just been getting beat up this whole round. I'm tired as hell. I'm just going to lay here the whole round. And laying there for the last 30 seconds while Bisping threw some punches from the bottom. And then this is where it's like, what do you value in this round? Do you value the fact this whole round landed more total strikes and more significant strikes on Dan Henderson, or do you value the fact that Dan Henderson got the knockdown on Michael Bisping? That's one of the hard things that you have to look at when it comes down to this round. Now, for me, when you get a knockdown, even maybe this is just like the boxing mentality, but when you get a knockdown, that means you won the round because you hurt the guy so bad that he went down to the ground. I don't care if Dan Henderson wasn't dominating that round and only landed like, what, 8 total strikes that whole round? I don't care. I gave Henderson round number 2. Round number 3, Michael Bisping pretty much was just dominating Dan Henderson like he was in round 2, looking masterful as hell. We move on to round number 4 where hilarity assumed. So round number 4, Michael Bisping was doing what he did in round number 3, and then Michael Bisping hit a groin kick on old man Hendo. This time, Hendo did not respond with the shuffle, shuffle H-bomb. Instead, Dan Henderson took his sweet-ass time recovering from that groin kick. Dan Henderson's a legend and a veteran for a reason. He's like, yo, man, I have 5 extra minutes to catch my breath? Fuck yeah. Dan Henderson was like, let me get all that oxygen. He was acting like his groin hurt. Dan Murgliata was like, hey, man, you good? You good? And Dan Henderson was like, ignoring him. He's like, shut the fuck up, man. Can't you see what I'm doing? How long have you been refereeing for? You've been refereeing for a long time. Just let me catch my breath. And so Michael Bisping even knew what Dan Henderson was doing. And Michael Bisping was like, yeah, man, get your breath, Dan. Get your breath. Can't be a UFC fight without some ridiculousness happening, right? So then Dan Henderson gets his breath. And you can tell Dan Henderson got his breath back because he was throwing the H-bomb like crazy. Michael Bisping goes and he counters some punches. Round number 4, I gave to Michael Bisping. Now, round number 5, interesting round. Dan Henderson was landing some strikes. Michael Bisping was landing some strikes. They were each going tick for tat. Anytime Hendo landed a significant strike, Bisping landed a significant strike right back. It was just like a very, very close round. But then what sealed the deal for me, was that Dan Henderson in the middle of the round, about the 250 mark, Michael Bisping. Now, he didn't have him down there for long, but he did take down Michael Bisping. That's huge. Takedowns are very, very huge in the UFC and in MMA. And then afterwards, Bisping gets back up. Bisping and Hendo are kind of going at it a little bit more back and forth, more trading shots. Near the end of the fight, funniness ensued. Bisping goes for a flying knee. Hendo dodges. Hendo goes for a somersault kick. and then Bisping lands on top of Hendo. I guess that counts as a takedown. I don't know. I don't really count that as a takedown, to be honest. And Bisping lands some shots on Hendo, and that ends the fight. And then we go to the judges' scorecard. Now, for me, like I said, I had Dan Henderson winning, mainly because round number 1, Hendo was obviously the better fighter in that round, and he knocked down Michael Bisping and damaged him a lot. Round number 2, even though Bisping landed more total strikes, Henderson did get the knockdown. Rounds 3 and 4, I don't argue, those are Bisping's rounds. But round number 5, even though it was a close round, takedowns are very important when it comes to MMA. Like, we've seen a lot of fights judged by a takedown. Remember the first Lawler versus, what's his freaking name? He's not doing shit anymore. Johnny Hendricks fight for the welterweight title. Remember that fight? How it was really, really freaking close. Like, these two were just killing each other. And it was because Hendricks hit the takedown in the 5th round. That's what led to Robbie Lawler losing that fight. You know, so really, to be honest here, takedowns are very important. One takedown can change a whole complexion of a fight. It happened with GSP. That's how he won against Johnny Hendricks. He hit more takedowns on Johnny Hendricks. So, you know, it all depends how you view MMA and what you view as important. You know, I don't mind if Bisping won this fight, but I did have Dan Henderson winning. The judges' scorecards were 48-47, which was my scorecard, except for one of them who had 49-46. I don't know what that judge was seeing, but he was stupid. And the winner, and still middleweight champion, Michael the Count Bisping. Like I said, I can understand where people chose the 5th round for Michael Bisping. He did hit a little bit more significant strikes and more total strikes than Dan Henderson, but Dan Henderson hit the most important thing of all, which was the takedown. So I had Dan Hendo winning and Hendo walking out as middleweight champion to end his career. So speaking of Dan Henderson's career, it's sad that it's going to be over. Dan Henderson is a legend in MMA. It sucks that he never won a UFC championship. I mean, he came close against Anderson and obviously close against this one against Michael Bisping. But, you know, Dan Henderson has had many great wars in the UFC, many great fights. I mean, look at the fight with Shogun. Oh, my God, that fight was insane. What, the first 5-rounder main event in UFC history, and it was just these two going at it, killing each other like they were both wearing white trunks and they were pink at the end of the day. This year, Dan Henderson is a legend. Not only talking about just the UFC, talking about also Pride, being a 2-division champion over there. Strikeforce, beating Fedor Emelianenko the way that he did. Like, that was a dream fight for a lot of people. Dan Henderson was in trouble in that fight against Fedor too, and he managed to get the H-bomb on Fedor and knock him out. I mean, really, to be honest here, Dan Henderson has beaten a lot of big-time names. He has lost to a lot of big-time names, but he's also beaten a lot of big-time names and had many great fights against a lot of great fighters. 2-division champ, 3-division champ, because welterweight, middle. Oh, wait, wasn't Pride middleweight 205? Yeah, Pride middleweight was 205. Welterweight was 185 because he fought Rampage first, right? When he came into the UFC, and then he fought Anderson, which made no sense to me. I was like, what the fuck? Maybe they didn't want him to look too bad against Rampage because Rampage was just coming in as well. But yeah, it's going to be sad not seeing Dan Henderson because, like, at least with Dan Henderson, you're guaranteed one or two things from him. You're either going to get a great knockout on a card or you're going to get a great fight. That's the beauty of Dan Henderson. Like, you're either going to get him knocking out some fool with a powerful right hand or a great fight that you're just going to be like, man, dude, how good was that Dan Henderson fight? And for his age, man, to go 5 rounds and just be as good as he was, stuff, man. That's why when all these people tell you in life, oh, man, nothing's possible and shit like that, don't listen to them. Because Dan Henderson, at 46 years old, went 25 minutes punching some British guy in the face and almost won a middleweight title. Anything's possible, damn it, said Kevin Garnett after winning the NBA championship in 2008. Great times. But Dan Henderson did not win, and Michael Bisping did. And now it's time to answer the question: is Michael Bisping the fighter of the year this year? I mean, listen to me for a second. Has the argument of being the best fighter this year. I know a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy. And yes, Michael Bisping does have some 2 controversial wins, but let's look at this. He beat Anderson Silva earlier this year. Who was giving Michael Bisping any chance against the Spider? No one was. Anderson Silva is the greatest of all time. Anderson Silva should have just been. When you watch that fight against Anderson Silva, it was surprising how good Bisping looked in that fight. Now, granted, a lot of people do say Anderson won that fight. A lot of people do say Anderson won that fight, but at the end of the day, Michael Bisping got his hand raised. Then Michael Bisping goes on, fights Luke Rockhold, the guy who he lost to, and he ends up winning the middleweight championship. And who was really giving Michael Bisping a chance against Rockhold? Michael Bisping's kids weren't even giving him a chance. They even said he's going to lose. Avenge another loss in the UFC to Dan Henderson. Now, granted, Bisping was not fighting the top guy. Granted, Bisping looked bad against the old Dan Henderson, and he wasn't fighting a guy of like Chris Weidman, a Luke Rockhold, a Jacare, or a Yoel Romero. But still, Michael Bisping won 3 fights against 3 big-name fighters. 2 of them are legends. Luke Rockhold could become a legend one day. I mean, I think it's fair to say that Michael Bisping's the fighter of the year, and who's even close to him? Can Rumble win fighter of the year? Oh, yeah, he could. But he has to win the lightweight heavyweight title from DC, but it seems like DC's too busy doing TV work. Dominic Cruz's name is kind of there, but I feel like he has to have one more championship win before we name Dominic Cruz the fighter of the year. And a dominant win, not just, oh, I beat up Uriah Faber for 5 rounds, and same with TJ Dillashaw. McGregor's not going to win fighter of the year. Are you kidding me? After that loss to Nate Diaz already hurts Conor McGregor's chances of winning fighter of the year. Eddie Alvarez? No. Joanna? No. I think it's fair to say Michael Bisping's the fighter of the year this year. And it's going to be hard for someone to top that. If you were to ask me who's the fighter of the year this year, it's Michael Bisping. You beat Anderson Silva. You avenge a loss against Luke Rockhold and become the middleweight champion. You go on and you beat Dan Henderson and avenge that loss. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. You guys tell me down below or in the chat. Michael Bisping, is he the fighter of the year for you guys, or is there someone else? Because, like, to be honest here, I don't know how you can dispute that. Shark Teeth says, couldn't afford to fight this time. Thanks for the recap, bro. Dan is always going to be a legend. Shout out to Shark Teeth. Yeah, shout out Shark Teeth, and thank you very much, man. That's why I do the recaps. Some people can't afford paying $50 every month for these UFCs. I wonder how much they're going to charge for UFC 205. Can't wait. That's the tagline. I'm not saying I can't wait. Kind of, I guess. Joanna Jacek, whatever name is a close second fighter of the year. Haha. Nah, not even. Joanna Jacek. So, yeah. What's coming up next for the UFC? Oh, yeah. Lamas versus Penn got canceled. Ultimate Fighter Latin 3. Forrest Griffin's a coach. Chuck Liddell's a coach? What the fuck? Latin America 3. What the hell is this shit? UFC doing a bunch of weird shit nowadays. I don't even know. Like, they're on UFC, like, Ultimate Fighter Brasilia number 5. Like, that's why I like with the Ultimate Fighter. Like, this guy was on the Ultimate Fighter. I'm like, which one? I'm always getting confused which one. So, yeah, let's go check out UFC 205. Let's go talk about some of the fights on that card, kind of talk about them a little bit, because really, to be honest here, there's not more. A 5-hour energy? I don't need no 5-hour energy, man. I have 5-hour energy all day. So, yeah, let's talk about some UFC 205. What did you guys think about UFC 204? And do you guys agree with me that Michael Bisping is fighter of the year? Leave them in the chat, and I'll read those comments. So, looking at UFC 205, oh, this is the most stacked card in UFC history. Like, I'm being that serious. This card is really stacked. Wait a minute. What the fuck? In here. Get the fuck. You can barely make one. Oh, okay. So, anyways, Liz Carmouche is taking on Caitlin Chukagian. Okay. Jim Miller's taking on Thiago Alves. I thought Thiago Alves was a welterweight, but okay. Tim Bosch versus Rafael Natal. Oh, that's low-key. That preliminary bout right there, low-key, that could be fight of the night, man. That fight looks crazy. Rafael Natal's sick. Tim Kennedy taking on Rashad. Whoa. Rashad got disrespected. Wait, time out for a minute. You telling me Rashad Evans is on the prelims for UFC 2? Hell no. You telling me a former light heavyweight champion making his middleweight debut against Tim fucking Kennedy, and Rashad Evans is on the prelims? Get the fuck out of here, man. Move Jono, the Jabroni Cerrone, and Kevin Gastelum to the freaking prelims. Rashad Evans deserves more respect than that, man. Rashad Evans is not a prelim fighter. I don't care how big UFC 205 is, man. Like, what the hell, man? I don't care how big UFC 205 is. Rashad Evans should never be on no prelims. And whoa, Khabib and Michael Johnson. Oh, my God. I thought UFC's 200 prelims were bad, but shit. Khabib and Michael Johnson is a prelim fight. Any Fox show. And then Frankie Edgar versus Jeremy Stephens, which I like Frankie Edgar and Jeremy Stephens. I think that's going to be a good fight. But that makes sense for a prelim main event because, you know, Frankie's coming off that embarrassing loss against Aldo, and Jeremy Stephens is coming off a win. But it's like, but Rashad Evans is like on the prelim show. That amazes me. I didn't know we were back in 2006. Like, holy shit. Sugar Rashad Evans. Oh, wow. And Khabib's like the number one contender to the lightweight title and pretty neat, nifty fighter. He's no Khabib, but he's pretty nifty. Oh, wow. Interesting shit. But that main card, too, like the main card is stacked as hell. That's good, Shark Teeth, man. I'm glad you're a new subscriber. Thanks for subscribing. Yeah, UFC 204 was filler. But it was a good filler. It's not like WWE where they have bad filler pay-per-views. It's a good filler pay-per-view. All right, so the main card for UFC 205, I guess I'm going to make my predictions, but we have Miesha Tate taking on Raquel Pennington. Oh, wow. Cupcake versus Pennington. Oh, I see what the UFC is doing here. That should be a good fight. Miesha's coming off a loss. Pennington's 3 in a row right now. Oh. I'll go with Miesha on that one. That's going to be a crazy fight. Donald's the Jabroni Cerrone taking on Kelvin Gastelum. Oh, Cerrone's been looking good at welterweight, but Kelvin Gastelum, he's kind of like the next chosen welterweight. Like Tyron Woodley likes to call himself the chosen one, but Kelvin Gastelum, he seems like he's the real chosen one, man. That guy looks unstoppable. So that's going to be a good fight. I'll have to give it to Kelvin Gastelum because Donald Cerrone does bad against wrestlers. Chris Weidman taking on Yoel Romero. That fight's interesting as hell. Both these guys are really good wrestlers, and both these guys are very good strikers too. So like that fight right there, someone's getting knocked out. I know a lot of people are going to think, nah, it's going to be a boring ass wrestling match, but man, low key, someone's getting knocked out. Yeah, Yoel Romero. I don't know if all his fights have been on steroids, but he only got popped once with steroids and stuff like that. That dude's strong as fuck. He can just like lift like the whole middleweight division on his shoulders and just throw them off. So Yoel Romero looks like he like Weidman better not like think that he can outstrength Yoel Romero because Yoel Romero looks strong as fuck most of the time. Chris Weidman, you know, he looked bad against Rockhold, and he's coming off like a pretty serious surgery, man. He's coming off a pretty serious surgery. So I don't know if Weidman will be 100%, really all that 100% against Yoel Romero. I think this fight's going to be good, though. Really, really hard. I'll have to give the edge to Weidman a little bit more because I have to see Yoel without the supplements to see if he's any good. You know, like I said, you only got popped once, but you always got to assume that. So I got Chris Weidman. Anthony Rumble Johnson, fighter of the year, says Danny McHale. I don't know, man. He has to win that title first to be called fighter of the year. Win that title first, and then we'll talk. Let's see. Women's strawweight bout. Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Karolina Kowalczyk. God dang, what's with all these names? Polish girls. Fuck. Joanna champ. Welterweight. Tyron, the chosen one, Woodley, taking on Stevie Wonderboy Thompson. Oh. What do you think I'm choosing this one, man? I mean, seriously. Tyron Woodley, one of the things is that he had over Robbie Lawler is the fact that he trained with Robbie Lawler, and also Robbie Lawler kind of fights with his head just kind of staying there. You know, he has good head movement, but Tyron Woodley kind of knows Robbie Lawler's traits. The thing that Tyron Woodley struggles with the most is that Wonder Boy is like Rory McDonald, where he's just very lengthy and can hit you from any different angle. And we all saw what happened when Tyron Woodley lost to Rory McDonald. Now, has Tyron Woodley improved? I don't know, really, to be honest. I can't tell you if Tyron Woodley has improved or not. You know, like His last fight before facing Robbie Lawler, I can't even remember what it was, but Tyron Woodley waited like a year and a half to get the fight with Robbie Lawler. And then he fought Robbie Lawler, and it was kind of like a bleh fight, you know? Like, it was just kind of like, oh, he got a good punch on Robbie. So I honestly can't tell you if Tyron Woodley is going to look better against Stevie Wonderboy Thompson, because anytime I think about Tyron Woodley, I just think about Rory McDonald just doing this to him. So I don't know, man. To be honest here, I think Stevie Thompson, new welterweight champion, Tyron Woodley is going to be upset that he didn't get his paycheck against Nick Diaz or George St. Pierre. He really wanted those Diaz and St. Pierre fight, though, man. He really wanted that. He was like, oh, I need that fight. I'm tired of the money fight. You said you're going to fight Robbie and stuff like that. Remember, he was like, you say you're going to fight Robbie and stuff like that. Tyron Woodley looks like Dwayne Wade. Get the fuck out of here. No, Dwayne Wade's beautiful. Tyron Woodley ain't. And then the main event, Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor for the UFC lightweight title. Speaking of the controversy, before we talk about that fight, man, Jose Aldo. You guys think he's done in the UFC? I don't know. Jose Aldo always says weird shit, and I know everyone's going to be like, Chase, it's Jose Aldo, not Jose. Well, guess what? ESPN calls him Jose Aldo. Dana White calls him Jose Aldo. So I'm calling him Jose Aldo. I'm tired of Jose Aldo deciding that he wants to be called Jose one day and then Jose the next. No, I'm just going to call him Jose Aldo. Everyone else calls him Jose Aldo, so I'm going to call him Jose Aldo. That bugs you, that annoys you, deal with it. Not my fault that this guy likes to have his name sound all sophisticated and shit. That's like me going with my name saying, don't call me Chase, call me Chase. I want to be called Chase because, you know, it sounds different. Fucking Jose Aldo. Swear, man. Chase a check, Oliver check. Yeah, no, it'll be Oliveria Czeke. That would be like my Polish last name, Oliveria Czeke. Like, fuck. But yeah, so Jose Aldo talked about how he's done with the UFC. He's upset because Conor McGregor is going for that lightweight championship and not fighting Jose Aldo like they said. You know, I can understand Jose's frustration. I think it's kind of wrong that, you know, Dana White made the promise that, you know, Conor McGregor is going to defend the featherweight title, and then all of a sudden he's going for the lightweight championship. It's like, yo, Dana, you kind of said one thing and now you're kind of going back on your word. It's kind of hard to believe what you're trying to say. I get it. Conor McGregor, he's the star of the UFC. He's the golden child. You know, for all you wrestling fans out there, AJ Styles likes to say he's the face that runs the place. That's Conor McGregor. He's the face that runs the place. McGregor is the draw of the UFC. And when you're the draw, you decide whoever the fuck you want to fight. That's the fight game. I know a lot of people are used to UFC kind of being more loyal and integral. You know, throughout its years, especially in the early years of UFC, they've been good on that. That's why a lot of people towards MMA, because while boxing was dicking around with Floyd and Manny for many freaking years, it was like the UFC was giving us the fights we want to see and everything like that. Now, since the UFC has gained some popularity and some mainstream, you know, the UFC has to make that dinero somehow. They have to make those ratings. They have to show Fox, hey, this is why you chose us and everything like that. When it comes down to it, Conor McGregor, he's the star. Conor McGregor calls his own shots because he can. Because if you look at Conor McGregor and all his pay-per-view buys, they have been very, very good. Now, is that all Conor McGregor? We don't know. We don't know if that's all Conor McGregor, because honestly, I always have this theory with Conor McGregor, and I'm sure McGregor fans are going to be upset when I'm saying this. Like, Chase Stahl talking like this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, he's a good fighter, and yeah, Conor's a good fighter. I'm not trying to deny that. He won a championship. But when you look at a lot of McGregor cards, how many times are these cards stacked as hell? Let's keep it 100 here. Conor McGregor's always on these stacked fucking cards. Not like McGregor has been on a card on his own. That's why I always say, yeah, McGregor may hold the record, but Brock Lesnar was the real draw. Brock Lesnar's co-main event was Yoshiro Akiyama versus Chris Lieben at one point. The only card where Brock Lesnar needed help on was UFC 100, but that was a huge card, so of course you're going to stack that card up. It's not like you're going to leave UFC 100 high and dry. You're going to stack that card up with your two biggest draws at the time in Lesnar versus GSP. But when you look at all Conor McGregor's cards, they're always so stacked. The one where he fought Chad Mendes, where originally where Jose Aldo #1 was going to happen, he had Robbie Lawler in the co-main. Robbie Lawler was in the co-main of that card. The one where he fought Jose Aldo for real that time, he had Luke Rockhold versus Chris Weidman and Yoel Romero versus Jacare Souza. And then you look at the UFC card where you're supposed to fight Dos Anjos, you had Miesha Tate versus Holly Holm. UFC 200, oh, let's not even get started there. He was getting stacked up. UFC gave him Frankie Edgar versus goddamn Jose Aldo. And then they also gave him Miesha Tate versus Amanda Nunes. UFC 202, they pretty much transferred a lot of fights to that card to make it stacked. Where they had Anthony Rumble Johnson take on Glover Teixeira. Conor McGregor gets a lot of help. Yeah, he's the draw. People want to pay to see him fight, but UFC stacks up a lot of cards. Where a lot of fans, if they aren't big McGregor fans, they can say, hey, look, there's this Chris Weidman, Yoel Romero fight. I'm ordering the card just for this. I could care less if Conor McGregor wins or not. Brock Lesnar, when you look at some of his co-main events, man, Brock Lesnar is the real draw. Brock Lesnar didn't need any help. Just me. But Eddie Alvarez is taking on Conor McGregor, and this fight's going to be very interesting. Eddie Alvarez has been looking good ever since, Eddie Alvarez always been a top lightweight in the world, always been top 5 lightweight. Minus his loss to Donald Cerrone in that weird decision over Gilbert Melendez. Alvarez has been looking good. Beat Anthony Pettis, beat Dos Anjos, and now he's facing Conor McGregor. And the thing about Eddie Alvarez is that you can't be sleeping on his striking. Conor McGregor's a good striker, but Eddie Alvarez is a pretty decent striker, and he's a really good wrestler. Because Eddie Alvarez is going to come into this fight, and he won't care if those New York fans are booing. He's not going to care because he wants to win and make all this money. He's going to wrestle fuck Conor McGregor. That's what he's going to do. Whether you guys like it or not, Eddie Alvarez is going to go down, take down Conor McGregor, and lay on him as long as he can. Because the one thing about Conor McGregor's game, he's a good striker. He can hit all these crazy kicks. But you get him on his back, and guess what? Conor McGregor can't do shit. So, yeah. Got Eddie Alvarez winning 5 rounds of boredom. So, yeah. Shark Teeth asks, how about Dana 2 fines from looking for a fight? What are your thoughts? Sage Northcutt's a very buildable piece around that UFC brand, and I think that was a great find. While Mickey Gall, I don't know. Mickey Gall's kind of a goofball to me. Mickey Gall's kind of like, he's a goof. So, yeah. That's really my thoughts on Mickey Gall and Sage Northcutt. There's not really too much from it. I'm pretty sure he's found other fighters from looking for a fight, but I don't know. I don't understand. They have the Ultimate Fighter and now looking for a fight. What the fuck? I thought the Ultimate Fighter, you want to be a fucking fighter, you got to go through this show. And now it's oh, no, just go on looking through a fight. Dana White and Matt Serra find you guys. It's cool. You're all good. Don't know. That's weird. I don't know. Confused by some of the stuff that the UFC does nowadays. But who isn't? To be quite honest here, who isn't really confused by some of the stuff UFC does nowadays? Any more UFC questions, you guys can send them here. I'm just going to be on my phone for a bit. Replying to some messages about fantasy football. 911. Why would he call 911? Ain't no reason to call 911. Got to reply to some message about some fantasy football. Got to make some trades. Rob Gronkowski, he was supposed to be my #1 pick, and guess what? He's letting me down. Gotta make some trades, man. Everyone's gone from my team. Everyone's gone. My team's full of injuries too, man. Full of injuries. Actually, in a league together. My team's called the Auto Draft Legends. There, it's pretty funny. It's actually pretty funny. He was like, "Hey Chase, are you in a league?" And I'm like, "Is this you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, shooter. I think that is me. I just joined a random league for auto draft's sake." He's like, "Oh, okay," because I was testing the ESPN Auto Draft because there were some drafts I wasn't going to be able to make. So I was making sure ESPN would draft the way that I wanted it to draft. So, yeah. All right, I guess there's no UFC questions. Glad you guys enjoyed some fantasy football talk at the end. Thank you all very much for tuning in to UFC 204 recap and results. Guys are pro wrestling fans. No Mercy review will be happening Monday or Tuesday. I don't know. It just depends on my fucking mood. Don't get your No Mercy review. Don't worry about it. Because I have work Sunday night. And with work Sunday night, which means I can't review No Mercy Sunday night. Because I am not, after I'm working a long shift, gonna go fucking watch No Mercy. That's just how it's gonna be. I ain't gonna waste my time waking up and like, I've gotta go watch No Mercy now. Fuck that shit. So yeah, No Mercy review will happen on Monday. And then or Tuesday, just depending on my mood. And then other videos will happen on this channel. Next time, I'll talk about UFC. For all you fine folks, will be UFC 205. Can't wait. That's the tagline. Not saying I can't wait, even though I can't wait. It's tagline, so I got to add to it. Call promotion. This stream was sponsored by, no, it wasn't. I'm not sponsored by Gears of War 4. Go buy it Tuesday, October 11th. Yeah, whatever. Y'all have yourself a wonderful night. Take care.